Well, welcome back. This is Julie Baranek, host of the Seven Figure Builder Show, and I'm here today with my friend Kirsten Graham. Hey, Kirsten.
Hello.
And we are going to talk all things VA and building out your team. So I am super excited to chat with you today.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you so much for having me. I know we have so much in common. So I know this is just going to be a great conversation.
Yes, absolutely. So tell us a bit about, what it is you do with your business and what brought you to where you are today.
Oh my gosh. I will give you the long story, but I will compress it down quite a bit. So my background is actually real estate. I started selling real estate in the late 80s. And I ended up moving to the mortgage side of the business. I eventually owned a mortgage company and a title company and loved it and survived 2008. Actually stayed in business until 2013. And I left because my mother was terminally ill.
Ah,
But what happened was one of my clients is now my business partner. And I had helped them get the loan to buy their house. She had called to check in on rates a couple of times when they dropped. And I knew that she had planned to leave her job and start a business so that she could be home with her children. And so I asked her, how are things going? And she said, it's going okay. But like, I don't know anyone else who owns a business. Like, I really don't feel like I know what I'm doing as far as being a business owner. So I offered to meet with her for coffee, which I didn't realize I had been doing for about a decade. I'd been mentoring other business owners. They would take me to lunch to pick my brain. So yeah, so I ended up meeting with her, and it was back when it was 2016. So it was right when Facebook came out with fan pages. So about 16 years ago. And she was doing business cards and rack cards. She was doing a lot of physical marketing for her clients. So we put together a focus group to find out what local business owners knew and thought about fan pages. That's back when businesses were just starting to realize that LinkedIn wasn't just a job posting site. And it's also when email marketing and blogging were really coming into the awareness of local businesses. Online businesses have been there for a while, but local businesses were just starting to understand that. So it was fantastic. The focus group gave us a ton of information. She put together classes on all of those topics, sold out. But then what happened was all of these people that she taught how to set up a LinkedIn profile or how to set up a fan page and how to post, they didn't want to do it. So they were reaching out to her to do it for them. So her agency really took off kind of quickly. And I said to her, I read about outsourcing overseas. Would you want to try that? And she said yes. So talk about blind faith. Oh my gosh.
right?
Yeah, I mean it was so interesting because I had read a lot about outsourcing, but it wasn't something I had done. Obviously, in my mortgage business, I had all in-house staff. I didn't need outsourcing at that time. So we went down this journey together of hiring her team. And we like to say, if it could be done wrong, we did it wrong more than one time. And, we were taken advantage of, but there's always the other side to the coin. I'm sure in a lot of cases, we were really crappy bosses because we didn't have systems and processes in place the way that they needed to be. We maybe weren't giving feedback in a timely fashion or, directly enough that they understood what the next steps were. So it was a double-edged sword of, being taken advantage of and learning some hard lessons of what we didn't want to do, and then also learning what we needed to do to actually do a good job outsourcing. And then I kind of turned my mentorship into a business coaching practice and started helping other clients outsource because lead generation is the biggest challenge for most business owners. Building their brand, getting their marketing done, whether it's inbound marketing or outbound. So then Jeannie and I decided to partner. And so we decided to partner on the process of having a detailed structure of how we help our clients outsource. And it has been so much fun. It's been such a fun journey. And we just have the most amazing clients. And I love the fact that we're helping these fabulous people halfway around the world have long-term jobs that change their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. I love all of this. I would say, I'm trying to think where to even start, but what would you say makes a good boss? Let's start there because that's something that you hit on.
Yeah. So first of all, it breaks my heart when I hear people say, oh, I hired someone and it didn't work out. If I have to spend that much time telling them what to do, I'll do it myself. And that's, of course, very short-term thinking. But just like us, a lot of people hire before they have an onboarding process in place. before they have SOPs done, before they decide on how they're going to manage the work that that person's doing. So I feel like that is the biggest thing, is to, one, make sure you're ready to hire. But then the other thing, and the other reason why I think so many people fail, is they want to hire a unicorn. They want to hire a person who is fantastic at everything, right? And, the reality is we hire our team for specific skills and their specialties. And what we have found over the years is if you hire someone who's doing what they're passionate. So for example, our marketing virtual assistants, they're video editing, audio editing, graphic design. They're all very creative and they love being in that space. So as long as we're placing them in a job where that's what they're focusing on and doing most of the time, they're happy and are going to stay in that job for a long time. So making sure that you are hiring for specific tasks and know what hard skills and what soft skills that person needs to have to be successful.
Absolutely. And I want to stick with just looking at ourselves for a moment, and then we can talk about the hiring process and all that. But
Sure.
what are the skills, processes, and ongoing communication that you see work really well from a boss perspective? Like, how do you maintain that relationship looking at ourselves?
Okay. So first of all, you said from a boss perspective,
Mhm.
Julie, you'll be surprised how many times people will say to me, I just want to hire someone who will tell me what to do. Well,
Mhm.
if you want to hire someone to tell you what to do, go get a job. Like,
Right.
you're not an entrepreneur. And so you will never be able to hire and manage successfully if you don't want to step into the role of being a CEO, of being the boss. So I guess
And
having
real
things.
quick there, though, sorry, not to cut you off,
Sure.
but that's a consultant, right? Like if you want to hire somebody that will tell you what to do, hire a consultant. If you
Right.
want someone to build out your team, then hire a VA, hire a team member, right? Would you say
Right.
that's accurate?
Absolutely. Yeah. If you're not sure what you're doing with your business, like you said, hire a professional business coach and figure out your strategies and your processes. Hire someone like you that helps with automation. So hire people who have really high level skills. They're generally like, again, they're a consultant. They're not someone who you're bringing onto your team, because that is a very different type of person. We always like to consider our virtual assistants as part of our team, not just someone halfway around the world who's just doing tasks. But the reality is you're hiring them to do very specific tasks within your business and things that they are brilliant at doing and they love doing. So that's where I think you have a different role. And so you ask, what does it take to be a good boss? Again, I think making sure you take the time, you invest the time to hire the right person, making sure it's the right time for you to hire someone, meaning that you have the time to onboard them and that you have the time to put the systems and processes in place that you are going to use to manage their workflow. And then it's about investing time with that virtual assistant. When you bring on a team member, we usually recommend to most of our clients that they meet with them 4 to 5 times a week for the first couple of weeks, because that's about relationship building, communication. Then they usually go down to 2 to 3 meetings. And then eventually they're just meeting with that team member once a week. And to be honest, we have people on our team that know what they're doing so well, we wouldn't have to meet with them every week, but we still do, because it is about making them feel a part of the team and valuing that time that we spend with them on the relationship. And that's what really, I think, sets people apart who have high turnover, or people that have virtual assistants who stay with them for a long period of time.
Absolutely. And what is your viewpoint on having to manage, basically micromanaging, but like having to manage their individual task and their time and the flexibility? Or is it like, you work within these hours? Like, what do you find works the best with that relationship?
We're very result driven.
Mhm.
So, what we focus on is our clients are generally hiring a virtual assistant for 20 hours a week, 30 or 40 hours a week. So in that block of time, if they're taking care of our clients' video editing, social media marketing, we know how long it takes them to generally do those tasks. So it's easy to say this is how long it will approximately take each week, depending on the length of the video and the amount of edits and B-roll and things like that. So we really encourage our clients not to use time trackers, just because we really focus on, again, long-term relationship and communication. We also believe in using, project management software and structure. So at a glance, I can look into our software and see exactly where every video we have in production is at this moment and who's working on it. So it's a matter of having, like you said, automation and using technology to help you manage it. So you're not spending a lot of time doing that. And then the other thing about micromanaging, I would ask is, are you micromanaging for your benefit because you don't want to let go and you feel like you need to be needed? Or are you micromanaging because they're not capable? And if they're not capable, generally, you've hired the wrong person, or you haven't given them the tools and the structure and the coaching that they require to do a good job. And that's one of the things we work a lot with our clients on, is how to coach your virtual assistant so that they're doing things exactly the way you want them, because we're all a little bit different in how we communicate. So we want to make sure, our clients understand the value of coaching, and then having expectations. One of our virtual assistants who gets me booked on podcasts came to the meeting the other day, and she had questions about 2 podcasts. Would these be good podcasts to go on? Well, she hadn't really gone through the checklist. And if she had and paid attention, she would have known one of them was not ideal. The other one she wouldn't have known, because it was just, we had to dig a lot deeper. So I had the conversation with her about, please don't bring these to us until you've completely gone through this checklist and have all of this information. Because again, I think if you had done that, you would have been able to decide on this one. And then as far as the other one goes, we said, look, the bottom line is, we even had to question whether or not it was the right podcast for me to go on. So sometimes you have to get in there and support them on task, but being clear about what the expectation is for the next meeting. Don't bring things to us unless you have done every bit of research you can possibly do to figure it out yourself.
Absolutely. And ultimately, you're teaching them to up-level their skills. Right. It's
Yes.
not, you don't have to babysit them, of course, but you're teaching them to be independent. You're teaching them to be a more valuable team member. And like, the more you teach them to up-level those skills, the more it's going to help you as a business owner within your business.
Right. And the flip side of that is, the more you spoon feed them and micromanage them, the less confidence they're going to have, and the more of that you're going to have to do. So
Correct.
it's up to you what you get.
Absolutely. 100%. So flipping the script, looking at the team member, what do you encourage business owners when they're looking for somebody to enhance their team or fill a void within their team?
Sure. Again, know exactly what task you want that person to do. And then once you know the task, figure out what the skill sets are. What are the hard skill sets and the soft skill sets, so that you can figure out who would be the right person. Take the time and write a full detailed job description. And I feel like this is where you get a lot of clarity over who you're hiring, is by getting that job description documented. And you'll need the job description in order to create your job post or your job ad, if you're going to run an ad for a virtual assistant. So I feel like investing that time in the beginning is really, really important. And when I talk about hard skills, do they have great video editing skills? Do they have fantastic graphic design skills? Then do they have great communication skills? Might be one of the softer, skill sets. Can they work independently? Do they enjoy working independently? So figuring out what type of person you need to hire, both what they can do and then how they like to operate within the business itself. Because if you have someone halfway around the world who can't work independently, then it's not the right person.
Absolutely. And do you, within your team, have them provide daily summaries, or what is a good cadence for communication between when you have somebody working halfway around the world?
Yeah. So we, in our project management software, we generally keep all conversations in that software. So generally, as long as I see that our team is documenting what they're doing, they're asking questions, or they're doing an update within the software, then I know what they're doing, and I don't need that daily report or even a weekly report. So usually, and we can tell, if someone has extra time, what we encourage them to do is we say, hey, if you have extra time, let us know so that we can give you something else to do. But on the flip side of that, if we've given you a couple of projects that are taking longer than you expected, let us know that. Let us know that I'm not going to get this all finished this week, because I don't want you to rush through it and do it sloppy. So let us know, hey, within my 40 hours, I'm not going to be able to finish this. I'll probably need 10 hours next week. So for us, we really focus on clear communication. So we want to make sure that we're not throwing so much on them that they're feeling overwhelmed and rushed. And we want them to be ethical enough to come to us and say, hey, I'm pretty fast at doing these things and I'm finishing, within about 15 hours. Is there anything else you want me to do? And that's where I think building the real relationship and having trust and integrity comes in.
Absolutely. And what do you recommend for that hiring process? Like, you can talk about your own hiring process, but for the business owner, I have a need on my team. What's the best way to find a good fit?
Yeah. So after you've done the job description, the job post, you know what skills you're looking for, you can then post, a job post. Onlinejobs.ph is probably the best place to go. And then at that point, you start your interviewing process. And I really recommend that, again, you have, in order to compare apples to apples, make sure you have a list of questions so that you're asking everyone the same questions and getting a feel for that. Some people, depending on what they're hiring them to do, will give them a little task to do, kind of like a test. We usually do some back and forth email communication to make sure that they reply quickly and to see, if they're taking the time to read what we ask and write appropriate answers. So take your time through this process. And if you get down to 2 or 3 applicants that you think would be great, then do a second interview with them and then decide who would be best. Now, if I'm working with someone like a law firm in particular, I've helped them hire some medical records professionals. And it's interesting because as one law firm, they give them several different tests. So it's like the Colby test, and then there's another test. And these tests are more about how they work, not so much their skills. So it's interesting that they take it to that next level. For us, we generally don't feel like we need to do that because, again, we know exactly what that person's ability is once we put them through our pace.
Yeah, I love that. And what does your onboarding process look like? Like, do you have, periods of time that you work with them, or tell us, how does that work?
Sure. So we have a program called the Marketing VA Advantage, and that is for people who want to start a YouTube channel. And we work a lot with law firms and real estate agents. We do work with coaches and consultants, of course, but lawyers and realtors are really starting to understand the value of building their personal brand and taking advantage of YouTube for local SEO. So for that particular job, we actually do all the interviewing and vetting, and we then actually put that virtual assistant into an internship program where we pay them, and they have to learn all of our processes and SOPs before they get to go to work for a client. So then, of course, we teach our client all of the SOPs to manage them. So for that particular program, we do all the back end work. We have a hiring team that takes care of that. It's surprising how many people wash out. But, again, if they've made it through graduation, they're committed, they're excited, they want a long-term job. They know that our clients are generous and kind, and they know that they've been educated on how to be a good boss. So we get a ton of referrals for virtual assistants who want to come into that program.
Awesome. And that's a huge benefit from the business owner perspective, because that takes the heavy lifting off of their hands, right? To say, okay, yes, I've got a vetted, trained, established VA that can just, come into my team. And that really is an awesome thing that you provide.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And what do you recommend for the timing coordination? Obviously, when you have people working around the world, you're in flip-flop time zones. So how do you find that works the best?
So it depends on the task. So for example, if the marketing virtual assistant is editing videos and creating social media posts and setting up emails to go out, I generally don't care what time they do that. So for me, I don't care what hours they work as long as they're meeting all of the deadlines and the goals. So it can really, be whatever time they want. Also, we do talk to our clients a lot about when someone's in a creative space, because my business partner is also a creative. And if you get into editing a video, you may not want to work 4 hours and stop. Right. So it doesn't make sense to say, oh, well, you're going to work 4 hours a day, 5 days a week. Because if they get into that creative mode, they may sit there and work 8 to 10 hours because they're just in flow of the creativity. Right. So with the creative virtual assistants, we really don't care. For virtual assistants that are getting our clients booked on podcast, we generally want them working, generally between 7 a.m. and 9 p.m., our time, because we don't necessarily want them reaching out in the middle of the night to get you booked on a podcast. Or if we have, virtual assistants that are doing setting up sales calls for us, we want them working our hours. So I think it really depends on the job and the tasks that they're doing.
Absolutely. And you mentioned a lot about SOPs. What would you say makes a good SOP?
Well, I love the saying, I don't know who said it or where I heard it, but it said, if you do something more than 3 times that has more than 3 steps, you should document it. So a really good SOP is just documenting step by step how something is done. And I think for most business owners, including myself, we're not great at creating SOPs. Luckily, I have a business partner who is, but documenting everything that needs to be done and then working through the SOPs yourself to make sure, because a lot of times we automatically do things that we don't think about doing. But if we don't document it, the virtual assistant will know how to do that. So I think that taking time to create the standard operating procedures and then having a process to go through them with the virtual assistant and talk out the different things that they're going to do and why they're going to do it a certain way. And we use project management software. We're really big on checklists to make sure everything gets done, every step within the SOP gets done. And I guess my biggest advice for business owners is don't think about all of the SOPs you have to create. Just create one. Next time you do something that requires more than 3 steps and you're going to do it more than 3 times, go ahead and start documenting it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do the same. I'm very much a systems automation person. Yes. So I tend to, when I do something the first time, I always am doing it with the 50th time in mind, right? Yes. Because we're going to forget the steps and I don't want to have to refigure things out every time I have to come back to that stuff. So I do it for myself, in addition to my team. And then as I get an established process and I get it documented for myself, I can then hand that over to my team member and it's one less thing on my plate. So I echo everything that you are saying 100%.
And then I think the other thing is to realize that things change over time. Obviously, look how quickly marketing is changing in automation and AI. So remember, in those weekly meetings with your virtual assistant, this is a great time to update things, to add in, it may just be adding in something like, here are the AI tools that you could use to write this post, right? Because maybe that person's been with you so long that it isn't documented within the process that they could use AI. But you want to document it because if that person ever leaves or goes on maternity leave or something, and the next person that steps into that role, you want to have it updated.
100%. And are there any good tools that you found that, you can share with our listeners that work really well?
Sure. So we started off using Basecamp ages ago, and then we moved into Asana. And right now we use Trello. And the reason why we use Trello is it allows us to give all of our SOPs drop them directly into our clients' Trello board accounts. So we can give them very easily all of our processes. So that is one of the softwares that we use. And then for the client, the virtual assistant who books me on podcasts, we use High Level. I think you're a High Level fan too.
For sure.
So we use that software for her to book my calendar and things like that.
Awesome. And what are the biggest gaps that you see in this whole process, both from the business owner or from the VA side?
I think the biggest gaps for a business owner is that they just don't have the time. They don't have the time to create the SOPs. They don't necessarily have the time for onboarding or training, which is, when we first set out to do the Marketing VA Advantage, our intention was to teach our client how to hire the right person. But we had several people say to us, I wish you could just do this for us. And so we thought, well, if that's what our clients want, let's figure this out. So they don't have to go through the interviewing process. They don't have to go through the training process. They don't have to go through the onboarding process. They just have to learn our workflows to manage the virtual assistant. And so that makes it super easy for them. And again, we also help them with their content because, again, a lot of our clients will have questions about the best content to create for their YouTube channel. So we do a lot of coaching around that. So I think that's helpful. But I also feel strongly about the fact that learning how to outsource is a skill that most people should have, which is why our second program, we actually teach our client how to hire the virtual assistant who is going to get them booked on podcast. So we do that in a very different way. We still train that virtual assistant once they hire them through a portal, but we feel like it's really important for business owners to start to understand how to hire. And we came to that conclusion because a lot of our clients who have our marketing virtual assistants, some of them have had them for years now, they want to build their team, but they don't know how because we did it for them. So this is an opportunity for them to learn how to do it.
I love that. That's awesome. And I'm curious, as you've been growing your business, you've accomplished so much, both personally, professionally, but how do you define success? What does that look like for you?
Getting up every day excited about what I do. I mean, that's the bottom line. I think, for us, we love helping people. I love something I wasn't expecting, just because, again, like when I in my mortgage company, I had staff. So something I truly wasn't expecting was when our clients, when they first started working with their virtual assistant, when they would come back and say things like, I'm so much more confident now that I have a virtual assistant. I feel like a real business owner now that I have support. Or they may say, I had no idea how isolated and lonely I was in my business. And now that I have this person that I'm meeting with, and they're as passionate as I am about getting my content out, it gives them a whole different feel to their business. And those were things, I really wasn't expecting. And then also, as women, we tend to beat ourselves up because we can't get it all done. And so that was the other thing, is so many people saying, I didn't realize like how hard I was on myself and how much I was beating myself up. But now I have this person working 20 hours a week for me. And I don't know how I thought I could do all of that work, as well as my client work and as well as all my prospecting and sales calls. So that was the part that really blew me away. And that's the impact that we want to have with our clients. We want to change their lives, not just help them, get their YouTube channel up and running or get booked on podcasts, but we want them to see what it feels like to build a team and have the support in their business that they deserve.
Yeah. And the other thought I had with that is you're also able to constantly share your vision with somebody. Like our vision is evolving and growing and, molding over time. And you can share that with your team member where it's not just like buried in your head somewhere, or trying to get it out in content or whatever. Like it's a whole other level of this is what's burning inside of me. And now you have someone else who sees that in the day-to-day process.
Is that something you enjoy working with your virtual assistant on?
It is. I echo everything you said. Like, I think my VAs are invaluable, and I've worked with some better VAs and I've worked with some not so great VAs and
right.
have learned a lot myself through that whole process. So, the ones on my team right now are freaking amazing. And I have an A team, like they're just awesome. And I don't know how I would do it without them. So, but it's really exciting for my lead VA in particular to be able to share that passion with her and say, okay, this is my vision. This is where we're heading. So she sees how all the pieces are fitting together and sees the longer term goals that we're working towards and sees the steps that are coming behind it. So it kind of gives her context, which fires her up even more and gets her excited to get there.
Yeah. And I think sometimes when you talk it out with your team member, you get more clarity, or you get excited as well because they're excited. And a lot of times, our team members will bring great ideas to us. And I'm sure you have that too. Someone comes to you and says, well, have you thought about this? And you're like, oh my God, I hadn't thought of that. It's brilliant. Like, because sometimes we're so close to it, we don't see it. And it's great when you have team members where there's trust and respect, and they'll come to you with an idea or suggestion. And, hopefully they're committed to making your business better.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And as she's gotten, my lead in particular, as she's gotten more ramped up in her expertise, I rely on her a lot for that of like, here's an idea, here's my goal. I would love to hear your thoughts of how to get to that goal, right? So that I trust her judgment. She's proven herself. So I really value that expertise that she has.
That's so awesome. I love hearing that.
Absolutely. And I'm curious, if you had the attention of the whole world for 5 minutes, what would you tell them?
The whole world. Find something that you're excited about doing and do it. So you get up every day excited. Be kind to each other. We never know what someone else is going through, and that we're all here to make a difference. And sometimes I think maybe we feel like the difference we make in our business, like, oh yeah, helping someone hire a virtual assistant or help them with their marketing, that's not really changing the world, but it is changing the world because it's changing that person's life. It may give them the extra income to go on vacation or to put money away for retirement or to buy the house they've been dreaming of. So realizing that whatever your purpose is in life, you are changing the world. You're doing your part to change the world.
Yeah. And you're doing it way more than you even realize you're doing.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
So how can people find you and, get in touch with you and have you help them?
Sure. Well, first of all, I have a free guide. If anyone's interested, it's called Double Your Income with a Marketing Virtual Assistant. And you can get that at outsourcingforbosses.com, outsourcingforbosses.com. And you can find me on our website, which is sixfigurebusinesscoaching.com. And that's SIX, figurebusinesscoaching.com.
Awesome. And we'll have all the links below for people to come check it out.
Thank
And
you.
thank you, Kirsten, for coming
Thank
on.
you. This has been a great conversation. I'm all fired up to get back to work now.
Good. Absolutely. As you should be.
Thank you
So
so
it's
much.
a lot of fun. Yeah, of course. And if you found value in this episode, please do share it and give us a subscribe and a like. And that's how people find us online. And I will see you on the next episode of the Seven Figure Builder Show. Thank you so much.